This meeting is being recorded.
Hello, hello. Welcome to this little experience with Dendora Oracle Temple. This is Aurora Dawn, and I'm Alia Rachael.
Hi.
And we've been creating this Oracle initiation called Radiate Love. And our friends and family have just been kind of asking, what is it really? Can we get more of a picture? And so that's what this video is about today, to give an opportunity for all of these frequently asked questions to land in one moment between the two of us, answering all of the curiosity that we've received thus far.
Outstanding. So, Aria, to begin with, what is an oracle deck and why are people drawn to them?
So oracle decks are packages of cards, and each card has art and an inspired message that comes with it. And so Oracle, as kind of a new generation of tarot, is a way that people can connect with their higher selves, with the wisdom of the oracle writers, and just generally get a touch point with a really healthy, pure perspective, little wisdom seed, or answer to one of their questions that they brought to the deck. And it's a way to just make sure that their energy stays up, that they're remaining in a feeling of connection, of presence, of love. And so what makes Radiate Love unique is that we're actually going direct to that underlying intention. And we're saying, okay, let's make a deck that instead of us encoding our understanding or wisdom or nugget seeds, or simply like writing something down that is beneficial, let's make a deck about opening access to love itself, creating lasting connectedness by working with the art on the cards and this kind of multi-perspectival approach of, mantras and sounds and feeling in your body and all of these somatic awareness techniques to build actual grooves of access to allowing love through in our lives, so that you're doing the kind of like spiritual exercising for that connection to be steady and strong. And so when you come to the deck, it's more like you're getting a tune-up than you're borrowing an example of someone else's connectedness to try to remind yourself with. It's the difference between going to a tarot reader and asking a question, and then the tarot reader archetypally is getting very specific messages about your life, and it could look like this, or your future will end up like that if you do X, Y, Z, Z. And that kind of like giving our spiritual authority to people outside of us to write our stories is what Radiate Love is not doing any longer. It's saying, okay, Oracle has a chance to become this whole new level of powerful in a sacred tool that connects us with our divine nature or with our higher power. So let's build a deck that is strengthening the connection itself instead of modeling the connection.
What is also really beautiful about this deck is that there is a sequence to the cards themselves, is that as we are working on the deck, we are receiving the intuition that it's to go in a very particular order to create that openness to really be love incarnate. It's not about how do I like myself more, or how to get through the day. It's like, no, how can I love myself unconditionally, accept myself in all ways, and as I do that, I accept what is happening around me. So the order of the cards is very important. There's not going to be any spreads with this deck. However, once somebody does go through the entire sequence of 57 cards, there may be a spread that we just haven't been intuited yet as to what that is. However, the orientation is already different. And what I really love about it is, as Alia had already mentioned, is that it includes not only the image, but the mantra. And there's these key words that you can say throughout the day to help remind you of this particular love frequency that you are working on um, cultivating within yourself. And something I really want to add here is that we're not adding anything. This love is already present in you. We are just giving you a key so you can unlock this frequency and live it within yourself.
Yeah, it's like all these different frequencies of love are all the colors in the rainbow, and we're getting assembled so that the white light that has always been there is known in its depth and therefore easily accessible in its purity. So yeah, it's reassembling access to the fullness of love. And some of these love portals might be very familiar and feel effortless, and some of these might be challenging, and you have to practice them for a week to really tune into the energy. So it's kind of like reconstituting the access that we were born with as like a birthright superpower. Absolutely. Of being love itself into this reality and within this reality. So there's a way that this initiation journey, because it is linear, is creating a sense of completeness, and that being a strong foundation through which we move in the world. I mean, already I've had experiences where I'll name one of the power phrases from the early cards, and it completely turns on its head my experience. And we'll get into more of that later in the video.
I want to add one final note about, not the final note, but another note as to what makes Radiate Love different from other cards is that once you go through the deck and this is unlocked within you and you're fully living it, we ask you to gift the deck, to forward it to somebody else, so that way they can then become lived expressions. So it's about becoming self-sovereign. It's not always going back to the deck looking for answers. It's really knowing that the answer is within you and that you are expressing it and manifesting it as while you're living it.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I guess we're talking about love and radiate love, and why is that? Why now? What is radiate love, and why is it coming through?
Yeah, it's interesting just the way that love is held in our culture, and the fact that it is one word for love where other cultures have had many words for love, and what that's done to the flavor of love and how like accidentally corruptible it is for people because of that. Like people can have one experience of what someone else told them was love, but wasn't really the unconditionality of true love, and be jaded about love forever. And that woundedness in culture is what I feel so passionate about bringing Radiate Love to the fore now, is to correct all of the illusions, all of the veils against what love truly is, and re-inspire that virtuous heart in people. Like when you start talking about true love, I mean, that is a cliche, but it's also a deeply nostalgic frequency that if someone can bear to risk their heart, will always light them up that littlest bit. And so that's a big part of what I see culture receiving from the opportunity of this work, and what I feel so passionate about forwarding, even in my own work with like, I do a lot of space holding for people that are leaving relationships. And so I feel the way that each time that we're connecting with other humans, we're getting a chance to lean into love and find it fuller, or learn from love, and often like the heart just closes. So this is the opportunity for us to do love research independent of other beings, and really call forth the education that like a lot of painful experiences can grow through contrast and through being willing to remain open over and over again. And also, to a certain extent, our own well-directed exploration in self can also cultivate. And so it's creating that pathway of cultivation that I'm really liking this deck about forwarding. Yeah. How about you? Why Radiate Love? Why now?
So to come in and paraphrase a little bit of what Alia was saying is that love has been conditioned and the word has been weaponized. Is that when we speak of love, we have early experiences that we receive what we call love when we act or show up in a particular way. And when we don't show up that way, we are then not given love. And so we create all of these behaviors because we are social beings. Love is our very core. And so we want love. So we condition ourselves to be this and this, so we receive that love. And when we don't receive the love, all of negative self-talk and negative imaging we have of ourselves that can really, well, I don't have to tell you, it can be incredibly damaging. And so while I certainly want to reinvigorate what love is, and I'm saying love with a capital L, I'm not talking about the conditioned love. So when I use the word love, I'm seeking it with the capital L as the core essence of our being, the unconditionality of it. The other thing that I really want to bring in about why radiate love and why now is that when I look out in the world, I see that there's two choices. Is we're either choosing love or we're not choosing love. So love is still the bottom line. When we choose love, we are choosing to come from a place of self-acceptance, self-responsibility. We are choosing to embrace the moment fully for whatever it is. When we're not choosing love, it means that we are wanting something outside of our lived experience to be different so we feel loved. So when we're not choosing love and somebody is behaving in a particular way, we feel reacted and we take it personally. And it's very easy, and through my own observation of looking out in the world of where we are not choosing love, and that this choice for love begins on the personal level. We can't expect nations to love each other when we're not loving the person we live with, or we're not even talking to family members, or however these connections are.
We're not loving who we are.
Exactly. It begins with yourself. If you're looking in the mirror and you're not loving who you see, you're not choosing love. And it's coming through now because I really feel that it's an epidemic of this self-hatred that is so prevalent in this society, that there are those who are sincerely and truly seeking love. We are two seekers. And this oracle deck is coming through now to help you, seeker, so you can be love incarnate, so you can walk out in the world as a brilliant light, really showing everyone the power of choosing love. And through that, be the inspiration for others to then be choosing love.
Aho. That's exactly it. It's feeling in the consequence of every relationship where the edge of someone's capacity to love themselves is keeping portions of the communication off the map between you two. And to address something very practical between you is going to push the edge of some part of them that they're not ready to love yet. That feels so much a part of my motivation, is like, I'm wanting the love expansion because I feel the drop points in the love constriction as it currently experiences in life. And yeah, it's such a big part of also like reclaiming our power and our voice and our authenticity. Because if you haven't figured out how to love who you truly are yet, then there's not access to self-acceptance or forgiving the things about your past that you would choose differently now. You can't really learn from your own timeline if you can't love yourself, because you simply look back at that lesson or what it could have been a beautiful gift of learning experience, and you feel constriction and judgment instead. And so you're not actually getting the wisdom that your own life is pouring into your narrative through every experience. So it's not being deaf to ourselves because we've lost the capacity to insource that love. And we have created all these dependencies with substances, with entertainment, with distractions
Mhm.
that are making us feel good to soften the fact that we don't have that love for ourselves causing us to feel good.
Mhm.
And that is free, and it's always accessible, and it can't be lost, and it can't be taken, and there can never be too little of it unless we simply don't believe in its capacity and nurture it.
Mhm.
And so that brings us to our next question. Aurora Dawn.
Actually, I want to add
Yeah,
one
go for
bit,
it.
is just before making this video, we had all these technical problems, and Alia here being the person like, what is this bigger reason why we're having all this hiccup? It came into a conversation or a comment I made earlier today that I felt was petty. And in Alia's sense is like, well, generally pettiness comes up because of something that happened earlier. So I went through to an experience that happened a few days when I had a failed expectation. My sharing this, because I love myself, I'm not worried about sharing this and Alia all of a sudden retracting their love from me. I love myself so much that I'm gonna like, I was petty here. This was my expectation. That openness open up the way for Alia to then share their fear, is that if I don't do this, then there's a fear. Is that by my loving myself and being able to share that allowed Alia's fear to actually come to the surface and be held, because now Alia isn't afraid to share that fear with me because I'm not going to take it personal. I'm not going to see that fear and then manipulate Alia through that fear so I can get something. That is the power of unconditional love, and that is the power that comes through with the clear communication when somebody is truly loving themselves, that they're able to express even the most mundane pettiness because they feel like it was out of resonance with who they truly are.
Yeah, being in that state of free-flowing forgiveness that being connected to love inside of you accesses allows us to be at the edge of our imperfection and be comfortable enough to actually have the learning experience. And that demonstration that you went in, opening my capacity to be vulnerable as well, because you've demonstrated self-responsibility, then I step into personal accountability, and it becomes a mutually feeding cycle of transparency and relationship that builds trust. So that's an example of what it can look like when you've developed this groove with love, and then you take that into the interpersonal. So that's a brilliant example of how this is a personal journey with the Oracle deck, but it carries into the interpersonal so beautifully.
Yes.
And it's foundational, and it's so often in like what I see of modern community that they're actually looking for love to be accessed in and through community, when really it's that the cup overflowing within our own hearts creates healthy community, and to not rely on outer experiences to teach us that, but to look inward and find the place where that has always been, and remember its access fully. Yeah. So what has been your journey with love, Aurora Dawn?
That is
a really good story.
yeah, I am so happy to share this story. Sharing that last little bit, it may be really easy for somebody who hasn't seen me at all through this journey to have an image of, well, you've just always been that way. And I get it, because I see people who seem to be spiritually advanced, whatever that means. And I'm like, well, you didn't have to do anything to get there. Generally, I don't say that. I'm just kind of throwing that in. My journey of the night I chose love, and I chose it, would have been in 2012. I woke up in a psychiatric hospital. It was my fourth suicide attempt. And I had just been taken from the hospital and I was transferred to a psychiatric unit, and I can't sleep. And I heard in my head, the only audio I've ever received, audio clearance, was, I'm not going to survive the next one. And in that moment, everything went really still. It wasn't a matter of if I was going to be, again, trying to take my life. It was a matter of when. And at that time, I was going to be successful. That was like cold water splashed all over my body, and it completely froze me. I had to really think in that moment. It was just in that moment, I didn't pray to God. I didn't do anything like that. I was just like, what is wrong? What is my fundamental problem here? What is this warning about? And I recognized I didn't love myself. I had zero love for myself. I would stand in front of the mirror daily, pantomiming shooting myself. I hated my life that much. My outer set of circumstances, well, that part doesn't matter. What matters was in that moment, I made this commitment to love thyself. And every day from that day, I have recommitted to love thyself. And I would write it down and I would repeat it over and over and over to love thyself. And slowly, step by step, that began to happen. Several months doing this, I had an image, like a vision, and it was this big pit, this really big abyss, and every loving thought was a tiny pebble I was throwing into this pit, and I couldn't see the bottom. I certainly, there was a lot of movement forward, but it felt like a lot of movement back, and it really took a long time to feel that momentum going anywhere. I had a flash forward 4, 5, 6 years later, and I just got an image of this pit, and I could finally see the bottom. I could finally see these little pebbles that I was throwing in. And I remember when I was at my 7-year anniversary, they say every 7 years, every cell in your body is different. I celebrated because that meant after 7 years, every single cell in my body was now programmed with love thyself. And it was only after that, and several years, I'm 12 years into this journey. It'll be 12 years in December. Um, uh, it took several years, probably 8, 9, 10-year mark, that I really got to see the fruits of it. Really got to see it. Even though I celebrated 7, it still took a while for that to really land. And it was only after then, after I recognized that I loved myself so much, that I recognized I am spilling over. I am spilling love over. My fountain, my cup is full. And now I am radiating love everywhere I go. And my relationships reflect that. My lifestyle reflects that. My trust in the divine reflects that, that I really can say with the deepest humility that I am love incarnate. I am walking love. And it is this that I know every single being, if every single being chooses love, everyone, the world would be such a different place. And I know that because I am that walking difference.
It takes experiencing that level of contrast to really hold this deep value for love. When that fullness of what self-hatred is costing you is felt, that is when that commitment, that deep, cannot be lost again commitment to choosing love over and over and over and over again, the vow to walk as love surfaces. And there's been so many points in my timeline where that recommitment happened. Things that stand out are the time that I was confirmed in the Catholic faith and you receive the flame of the Holy Spirit inside of you. And so I was told at that point, you know, the love inside of me was mine and God's, and it was shining from this Sacred Heart. That was the first time I said yes to like allowing love through. But then there's also when I had been in a week-long missionary Baptist like retreat, and it was all fire and brimstone, and you know, we're fundamentally bad and we need a savior. And I had that connection point with God that's like, your innate nature is love, is my loved one, is goodness, and you have to choose to allow that to become that, but your name can never be unwritten from my heart. And that the seed of love is always there. And so then that was when I was younger and I had fewer traumatic experiences. So it was a lot easier to feel that and say yes to that. But then as I grew up, I had a lot of experiments with identity and a lot of, do I want to be this? Do I want to be that? And all these different friend circles to experiment with all these aspects of me. And I realized that at the core of that, I had not loved the simplicity of who I was. I felt like I needed to have a character to love that character. And it revealed to me that there's something deeper that wasn't being touched by that love, that it was so willing to pour on other people and show up as the happy, compassionate friend, but hadn't fully received in my own heart, and that I didn't like my life. And so that's when I made a radical decision to move 20 hours from pretty much everyone I knew, so that my social dependence on experiencing love through me by watching myself give it to others was cut. And that I, without that handicap, had to learn how to send it back to myself. And a lot of that was through mirror work, honestly, was through like really looking into my own eyes and witnessing the person that was there and being with all of the things that came up that had not previously, because they didn't sense my commitment to love till I had made such a full commitment that I took everything else off my plate. And of course, then I went back into community and I started doing some priestess training, and it was 13 Moon Mystery School. And there was a month of the year that we studied the goddess of love. And we went on this guided meditation, and there was an invitation to make the vow to walk as love. And my whole body tingled. And I was like, that's the word, that's the phrase that I haven't been saying, that I've been kind of hinting around. I've been dancing with the commitment of my choice to love, but I hadn't had an experience like Aurora Dawn where it was like full commitment now. And that experience brought me to that place of like, you are learning, but you're not building coherency and self-efficacy and integrity and long-term relationships on the level that you could if this commitment was total. And so that vow to walk as love became an accelerator that in the past 3 years has brought me to the place of creating this deck, because the amount of change, the amount of different people I learned from, the amount of different life experiences that initiated me was because my commitment to love had reached dedication where all of these lessons could rapidly integrate, because life trusted, as it gives me those challenges, I already know what my response is. And it may look different with every situation because there's this whole rainbow, right, of what love is. But if the foundational frequency is love, then you get to learn through experience all the different ways that love shows up. And I feel like that embodiment is a lot of what is not creating the material, because in my mind, the material is created by love through us, but is creating the availability for love to orchestrate this project.
Mm-hmm. And so, as we're going into our journey of love, is that working on this Oracle deck up to now, how has that journey been for you? How is that influencing your experience, your journey with love? What's its impact?
One of the main impacts has been the awareness, the acute awareness of how my voice creates and the influence of what I speak aloud. Even down to singing karaoke songs I used to sing 5 years ago and really feeling them on a whole new level. Like, oh, I'm saying that about love when I sing these songs, and not missing those details. Not when I make a joke, I feel whether it adds or subtracts love from the room. And that fundamental awareness, like, in every situation, am I adding or subtracting love? It is not as relevant if what I have to say is true or untrue. If the timing of when I'm saying it subtracts love, then it's not a helpful addition to the conversation, because love is the place where everything transforms and grows and thrives. So if it's being subtracted from, I'm giving the whole dynamic less space to become what it needs to become next for both parties' greatest good. And so then there's also been a big lifestyle change that has happened in making this deck. It's been really bringing through a pure frequency. And so all of these little, like, intermittent fasting and cutting back on artificial light past a certain time of the night, and going into nature more and grounding with the earth, and all these like micro lifestyle changes. I mean, self-care has also been a huge part of it, not being like, oh, I'll take care of myself whenever I get a moment, but like, no, first thing every day, all of the practices, just saying like, I am living my life from love spilling over. And so I completely regulate and fulfill my cup so that it can overflow into the rest of my day, and to not rush into a to-do list and miss that moment where my orientation is being committed. How about you?
Okay. So with this deck, I am the artist. I'm the one creating what we're calling love portals. Alia here is doing everything else, and by everything else, I mean everything else. So that means that my focus is working on these mandalas, and some of these mandalas, to do the base geometry, not even with the mandalas, but the base geometry, has actually taken me multi-hours. We're talking like 6-7 hours just to do the base geometry. And when that happens, my natural desire to be frustrated, angry, wanting a shortcut, I actually feel when I get it wrong, my toes curl because I'm like, and so I feel contraction in my body, and I am receiving the guidance to breathe, sit, and stay with it. So I'm not going out for walks, like I am staying with it. And so as that's happening, I am really having, let's see, within myself, the experience of non-reactivity is that if I become reactive, nothing gets done. So I erase and I breathe and I do it again. And in some of these instances, I do it again and again and again. And it's the reactivity, it's not so much there. It happened with this last love portal. I was working on it and I kept erasing it, but my reactivity was certainly much lessened. So as that's happening, I'm staying with it. Like I know that I can complete this. I know it's to come through. And as it's coming through, I am also um, trusting the inner guidance, the intuition more. There is a part of me that wants the paint by number. I want to connect the dots. I don't want to be patient for the image to come through. I want it there. And it's oftentimes the process is I have, depending if I'm starting with circles or lines, but I stare at it until one line comes in. And then I get the second line, and then I get the next one. So it is this process of slow revelation that as it starts to create the entirety, I get the whole image and then I get really excited about it. So there is this trust, there is this knowing that it is coming through, and that impatience, that connect the dot sense, that's also shifting. And as that's shifting, I am becoming more present in my day-to-day experience. I I feel like I get so much done in the day and I have the entire day to do it. There's such clarity of mind. My mind isn't constantly running around with trivial information. It's a lot of just presence, it's a lot of focus, it's a lot of clarity. And as that happens more and more of what these mandalas are going to be are coming in. And so it's all feeding on itself. And it's a cumulative experience where all these different facets feed into what I'm going to say is a purification of, I'm going to use the word my being. I would rather say purification of the being. So greater, no, greater isn't the word. It's a purification of the mind. So this inspiration, what I'm saying is divine inspiration, can come through. And it's
I'm feeling
yeah.
that a lot, the mental hygiene. I mean, I experience also like an emotional clearing out of like my emotional waves being so much more regulated, but that mental part of like, because your mind space is kind of committed to the stillness that allows this to move through, just everything extraneous just kind of melts, and it's leaving the open field for this receptivity. I'm just getting tingles as I say that. That is the practice. And that's what I would love to hear other people experiencing as they work with the deck, because that's what's being encoded as far as like our alchemization of the allowance of the energy. So how else do you hope Radiate Love will impact its users, its humanity?
Yeah, how it's going to go out in the world.
Yeah.
As I said at the beginning, there's two choices, choosing love or not choosing love. That when we make the choice to choose love, it's easier to make the next choice to choose love. And it's easier to make the choice after that and the choice after that, until choosing love is second nature. It doesn't occur to you to choose anything else other than love. And I remember many years ago, okay, not that one. And that's the impact that I want, is that I would love to see the world full of full cups who are spilling out, who are overflowing love. That's the impact I want to see, is I want to see a lot of full cups. That when we can be love incarnate, when we can radiate love, our perception changes. In what is happening, what we call unquote, quote unquote reality changes, our perception of it changes, and we don't take it personally. So we don't react to something that's out there. Rather than reacting, we shine love. And the other day I was walking and there were a couple of men that were sitting on the street. They were living on the street. And one just asked if I wanted to hear a joke. I have all the time in the world. For 15, 20 minutes, I'm sitting jokes back and forth and we're communicating. And I offered them a hug. And that's how I share love is I love hugs. I'm known for my hug. I'm known for my hugs.
Strong hug game,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. I was even nicknamed Huggles, or I nicknamed myself Huggles. And that's it, is that to move through the world and to not be in such a hurry, to not be so distracted that we don't see our fellow brothers and sisters, and that all of our sisters could really use a hug, whether they know it or not. To be open to having that connection, that conversation. It's not about condoning what we consider terrible or bad things. It's got nothing to do with that. It's recognizing that all of what we call the tragedies in the world are being caused by people who don't choose love. That when we can see that that choice for love can be fundamentally the difference of somebody creating a violent crime or not, that at some point they forgot that they could choose love. So that reminder to, in all circumstances, to see the choice for love. That when we see that person that we call a criminal, we don't call them a criminal, we say they haven't chosen love. That way our response to them is with love rather than vindication or vengeance or anger or fear. So we're not feeding the global resonant frequency of fear and all of its subsidiary
expressions.
Exactly, expressions. We're not feeding that. We're feeding love instead. I had an image or a vision at some point many years ago that if you can imagine Earth and that the love frequency goes to the very center of Earth, and from the center of Earth, it radiates out and it goes all the way around Earth. That love is that powerful. It penetrates that deeply. Anger and fear and all of those resonant frequencies stay on the ground. They kind of go out a little bit, but because there's so many people on the ground doing it, we don't recognize that it really isn't that powerful. We get a lot more than what it is, but when we feed love, we shoot it all through humanity, because love is the core base frequency. Love is eternal, and it will always be as it always is.
Yeah, I also am feeling into that and feeling like I really want an entire culture of people that are choosing to find love inside of them. Because I've just experienced so much interpersonal pain from people attempting to coerce into being that love source for them. And that choice of going direct and being like self-responsible to our own acceptance. The ripple effect of that through culture is if someone is not choosing love, I would love to be able to say that. And instead of people's defensive mechanisms come up, because the foundational goodness of love is prevalently known, that they're grateful for the reminder instead of pushing back. That is success for me, is like someone reminds me that I'm being less than that. I'm like, oh, thank you. Like, I could have held on to that for another 3 months if no one said anything, because I wasn't seeing it clearly. I wasn't embracing the opportunity of the moment to expand. I was making myself small, or I was feeding my victim, or I was denying something, or I was allowing shame and guilt to limit my range of vision. Thank you for inviting more love. And another impact of that is like when we're all looking for love inside of us, we stop paying healers to heal us and we start building eco villages. Like we stop buying television subscriptions and we start buying musical instruments. Like we participate in aliveness and creativity in ways that are furthering our access to love, are expressing our access to love, are sharing this open love field, and it mutually feeds everyone around us. Like music is powerful even in a recorded form, but the effect of live music, like to heart open, is a beautiful thing. And so, yeah, all of these ways in which we've created entire cultures around giving our power away instead of looking where the power is truly happening. That I would love to have that impact. That would be like, oh, yes, we've done it. We've done it. Not we've done it, you and I mean, culturally, we've done it. Like we've stepped into the generation that's ready to be beyond war.
And so, yes, that's how we want it to affect humanity. And who are the people that are being drawn to this deck? Who are these seekers?
There are a lot of different audiences that I could see really responding to this, but the one that's coming to me right now is that it would be people who are already loving support for so many others, but have not quite found out how to give it to themselves yet. And so this deck is holding them in self-access so that what they're already so generously giving to others can finally be offered back to themselves. And like a lot of times people that are in that position, they have trouble demasking with others because they've created a role identity for themselves. So having this kind of one-on-one one with self initiation that they can be within their aloneness, it doesn't need them to fully crack their ego to just let love in. Like there's so many ways that some people have to be humbled by life to be willing to be vulnerable, to be willing to de-armor, to be willing to let love in. And this can go behind all of that shattering and just go straight to the core of what people really need for all of the other beautiful blossomings to occur. Yes, you can address your shadow work one memory at a time, and clear and love. But if we access love's core within us, then we don't have to dig and heal all of those memories to bring love's fullness. Love will express its fullness as those memories naturally surface, or as life circumstances trigger memories, or parallel with their own circumstances, the aspects of life that still need love. And so it's going straight to the root and making a beautifully blossoming plant, and growing that foundation so that we don't have to collect specifics to have all the keys we need. We're collecting access, and the access shows us all the keys.
I had to chuckle because as you were sharing that, I was thinking of this quote from a prior partner of mine that he was really fond of quoting, and it's by Buckminster Fuller. And the gist of it is that there are 1,000 hacking at the branches, but only one going to the root. So, as you were saying so beautifully, is that there are so many systems and approaches that heals the results of not choosing love. What happens when you choose love and you go to the heart of it? You go to the root of so many reasons for addiction, so many reasons of self-image problems, and so many reasons people are seeking these healing modalities. At the core, it's a lack of self-love.
And by honoring the universal core, we're also giving humanity a sense of its oneness, that we are all in this human experience learning how to reconnect to the love that we have always had. And that, yes, we've gone through this forgetting process called being alive, but we also have this remembrance process called being fully here. That universal love can not only impact the way people show up with themselves and with each other, but the way that entire communities and cultures interact with entire other communities and cultures, because we're starting from the place of our sameness, and because we're actually walking the journey and not just talking about what it's like, we're feeling the depth of our connection to every living thing. Not even just all living people, every living thing. Like, everything that I say affects everything that hears it, and me, including myself. So if I'm loving to myself, then I'm loving to everything that I engage with. And not just with what I say and not just with my actions, but the emanation of my aura as a field effect. There are people that will walk into a room and everyone sighs in relief. And yes, that person's usually on a podium with lots of people listening. But we can all be that in our own lives and in our own ways when we've deeply integrated the embodiment of love.
All right, well, this brings us to, so we've been talking about radiate love. However, Alia here has another dream that has been coming through called Dendora Oracle Temple, and I would really like to have you share more about what that is.
Yeah, so Dendora Oracle Temple is a place for people to be with metaphysics, cycles, archetypal systems. We work a lot with aura anatomy, so like human design and gene keys, and all of these ways in which we understand ourselves. A good route to the self-love is self-understanding. And for those who are really driven by their thirst for knowledge, their curiosity, their flavor of seeking is really like knowledge based. They might go into all these different systems to attempt to know something about themselves. And I believe with Radiate Love as one of the core projects of this temple, that when we access self-love, the self-knowing is self-revealing. But I have a soft spot in my heart for those people, and I want to create a place for them to be co-surfacing that information and learning about the context of every moment. When we know the spiritual weather, we know what flavors of love are ripe for epiphany in that moment. And so when we know what flavors of love are uniquely available in that moment because of the spiritual weather, then we can be with what's really available here now instead of pushing what we want to resolve from a place of the mind. And it allows us to soften into the true experience that life is holding us in by becoming more aware of that container itself. And I mean, oracle culture as an expression has been deeply steeped in allowing access of the divine to move through us, but also knowing ourselves deeply enough to set that self aside and allow the love to pour through directly. And so there's this really nice symbiosis with the Radiate Love Project kind of expressing through Dendora Oracle Temple. And there are people that will happily support the Radiate Love Project that may or may not engage the chat rooms in Dendora Oracle Temple. Please don't feel like by signing up for one, you're kind of like making yourself participate in all of it. The funds that we receive through Patreon go to our production costs and living expenses and bringing this Oracle deck through to the world. But we've created this additional resource for those who are sharing the love, because I have so many friends that I want to share all these conversations with. And if they're all happening in one place, then everyone gets to learn from each other. And then access to gnosis just amplifies. It's beautiful.
And I want to speak on another note of what it means to contribute specifically to the Radiate Love Oracle, is that is acknowledgement that you recognize the power of love and what it means to choose love and the results of not choosing love. As Alia was saying, whether or not you choose to engage with any of the additional perks to the Patreon, you are welcome to. Please contribute, please read, please take this information and have it create a deeper sense of self-love for you. You are invited and you are welcome. However, the bottom line is that this is your recognition that love is truly the answer. Is that, yes, it does go to support us so we can continue bringing this in. And the truth is we're bringing it in without you or not, because it is to be here. And we have been really urged by Spirit to make this happen. What we are asking of you is for your own recognition of what this would mean for humanity, what this would mean for your friends and family, and what it would mean for you to choose love and to choose love and to choose love yet again.
Mm-hmm. We have an opportunity to be a part of the living solution. And by sharing with anyone in your field that you feel is an acknowledgement of the effects of love in our culture, that they would also be given, through you sharing, the opportunity to name their support of love furthering this expression. There's so many ways you can be of service to this reparadigming of love. Hopefully this is inspiring you to go have conversations with people about, hey, there's this deeper reality behind what we're all experiencing together, and it's that love is making itself complete through the human experience.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also, yes, an opportunity to start to gather that energy and that acknowledgement through the Radiate Love Project hosted by Dendora Oracle Temple to start to build that momentum, so that some of the strongest voices and what it means to really move this self-love wave forward as a movement start to get pointed in the direction of a singular hub, so that we can share the most beautiful emanations of what life and spirit want to express about this subject. And the rabbit hole goes for days, I'm sure, but as we bring more people on to interview, and that's one of the other perks of signing up even for the free version of the Dendora Oracle Temple, is these interviews that we're doing with people who carry a lot of love and compassion, that these interviews are our way to continually practice expressing that love and its richness and meaningfulness and impact in our everyday lives. So.
And I do want to let you know what will be coming to the Dendora Oracle Temple, as we are working on the first 13 cards to actually put the first 13 cards up live. So you can see the cards. We'll be releasing them over the next few weeks, 1 or 2 at a time. And that way, with the mantra, the pose, let's see here. So there's the image, the mantra, the pose.
The inner sensing, the visualizations. Okay. So the different ways of evoking the energy.
Yes. So you can actually sit with it yourself. And we ask you to experiment. We're not going to tell you this is how you're going to feel. We're going to ask you to actually sit with the image, to do the inner sensing, to do the visualization, to practice the mantra, and see how you move through the world. And there's going to be an invitation on Dendora Oracle where those who feel inspired to share. And so coming soon will be that feature.
Yeah. And we're looking forward to feeling into a love field together.
Blessings and thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. And Until next we meet again.